We have one movie review of the week, which is The Zone of Interest. Myself and Tyler got a chance to watch it. Tyler more recently than I, so we will start with Tyler because this was I'm upset Seth's not here for this review because I'd love to hear you guys just talk about the movie instead of me because like I'm not as high on it as I think most people. Most of my mutuals are 4.5 and 5 stars. So shoot your shit. What did you think of the movie?
Yeah, everyone's saying it, but it was just unlike anything I've ever seen before. So like the quick synopsis is not really even a plot synopsis. It's just the commandment of Auschwitz. Rudolf Haas and his wife Hedwig strive to build their dream life for their family in a house and garden next to the camp. So pretty much the whole premise of the movie is his family, the Haas family. He's the leader of the Auschwitz camp, and their family literally lived just over the wall from the camp, like right next door. So as a result of that, of course, living right next to a massive, one of the most well-known and recognized internment camps during the Holocaust, you're hearing that sound design, you're hearing these screams and bullets and furnaces and yelling and peril throughout the entire movie. Just in the background, just always never fading. It's just always there. You're always hearing it. And the sound design of mixing that while hearing all this horror, while also you're seeing just a normal family, like seemingly normal family. That's, they're talking about, they want to expand the garden a bit over here. They want to, what are they having for breakfast that day? What are they going to do this afternoon? We're going to go swim in the river. We're going to go fishing. Like getting that clash of the visual and audible where all this horror is going on that you can hear, but you never see it. Whereas when you're watching this family, they're clearly such an evil family. This man is literally the leader. And it's almost like at times, like something you watch at work for or he's talking it's like a training video at work for like operational excellence. He's like, okay, how can we, increase our throughput? How can we make it more efficient? How can we share lessons learned with other camps throughout, Europe and make this more efficient every other places? So it's just such a chilling and haunting dichotomy of you're never seeing these horrors. You're hearing these guys talk about it like it's, how can we increase how many chips we're manufacturing for an iPhone? And I just thought it was just such a brilliant way to do a Holocaust film. It's unlike anything we've ever seen because, most times you see Holocaust films, you literally do see the horrors and they want to give you, those rewarding tear-jerking scenes, the kind of almost fake empathy in some ways where you're watching, the classic sad moment of a movie and you're like, oh man, this is awful. You get a good cry in and then the movie's over and you're like, yeah, that was a good movie. And you go on with your day, kind of not really thinking much more of it. Whereas The Zone of Interest really puts you in there and really dissects that and breaks it down and kind of shows you that, this isn't for entertainment. This isn't for making yourself kind of feel down and then feel better about yourself. It's really kind of putting you in the position of what are we really doing here with how we analyze history, how we analyze atrocities, and not even history, what's going on current day. We have Israel and Palestine right now, but like I mentioned in my review, I think this movie is very timely for right now with what's going on in the world, but I also think it will be in 10 years. I think it will be in 100 years. I think it will be in 1,000 years. I think we're always going to be going through something in the world where some global catastrophe, global atrocity is going on, where this is just going to reign true. And that's why I just think it was just such a masterpiece. There's production design and costume design that, the clothing they're wearing and, the setting, it makes you feel like, yeah, this is, during the World War II times, but really like a lot of it feels like, low budget in a sense of on purpose where like they didn't really try and fully immerse you back in that time period. So when you watch it, it does feel like, maybe this literally could be going on today. This could be a modern day movie other than like the clothing they're wearing. And I think that's kind of what adds to what's more haunting about it, which then kind of leads up that final scene where, the whole point it back at the viewer and kind of make you think about yourself and question what your purpose is here and watching this and reliving these horrors. And yeah, it just really worked for me. I don't think anyone in my theater liked it. And someone commented like saying that me thinking no one in my theater liked it was pretentious, but I'm not saying, I'm guessing they didn't like it. I literally sat through the entire end credits, which I would recommend because the score is so haunting. And then when I was walking out, there was all kinds of people saying like, that was shit. Why did I waste my time with this? How is this the Best Picture nominee? Which is a pro and con of it getting a Best Picture nomination. We're going to get a lot of people seeing this that would have never watched The Zone of Interest, have probably never heard of Jonathan Glazer before, but because it's a Best Picture nominee and pretty much every single theater chain does like the, $5 to go see all the Best Picture nominees or whatever to check them all off, which a lot of people do. I think a lot of people are going to watch this that never would have, which is good because I think it's a movie that I want everyone to experience, even if it doesn't work for you. I just think it's something that everyone should see and try their shot with. but we're going to get a lot of people that are going to be, you know, what the hell is this? How is this a Best Picture nominee? All that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'll kind of leave it there for now and take a breath because I've been talking for a while. But I thought it was really good. I think it's really shows you how to maximize what you're doing with the elements of film, which is why I think is a film that should be studied for years and decades to come. The score and acting, for example, like Sandra Hüller, great in this, but the entire Haas family, the entire Nazi soldiers, the servants they have in the house, they're all acting. Obviously, they're actors, but they're not acting much. There's not going to be a single clip in this. Like we've seen A24 tweeting clips. There's not going to be like a Anatomy of a Fall breakup scene where they're yelling at each other. There's not going to be the Barbie monologue. There's not going to be like an Oppenheimer final monologue speech. Like there's not that moment in this movie where you could be like, wow, that is some of the best acting I've ever seen, but they're just so subtle in it throughout the film. Same thing with the score, the intro, the score is so chilling and haunting. There's a couple minor cuts throughout the movie where there's a little dash of score, and then the end credits, it comes back in. So I think the score is one of the most haunting and chilling of the year, but we get so little of it. So I just feel like it just shows that it's not, you know, when Oscars nominate things, it's usually like not just best actors, like who did the most acting of the year for best score, like what was the most score of the year? Like I love Oppenheimer and Spider-Verse's score, but they're like very overwhelming scores in terms of how much there is. I still think they're like the best of the year, but this shows that it's not just about like the best, it's about how well you use it. And yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of jerking the movie off a bit, but I really enjoyed it.
That's what I wanted to like understand, like what made you give this a 5-star, because like I share the exact same sentiment that you do. Like this was, I saw this at the film festival, and when the movie ended and the credits started rolling, my theater was silent. You could hear a pin drop. No one kind of knew how to react. No one kind of like understood what they had just experienced, because it truly is like a very one of a kind experience. Like you said, you go into any movie with this type of synopsis, any synopsis that includes the words Auschwitz or, you know, concentration camp, you expect to have those, you know, tear-jerking moments. You expect to see things that are going to make you uncomfortable. But this movie does such a good job at kind of like you said, like hiding everything, but also it's in your face. Like you're watching this family just go about their day by day. But in the background, you're hearing the horrors of Auschwitz. So it's a very unique experience, and it's one of those. It's one of the only films at the film festival that I watched where like the theater was like no one even clapped when the credits started rolling. No one kind of knew how to react. Everyone was just kind of digesting what they had just watched. But it's odd. It's so I landed at a 3.5. I will say that's off of one viewing. And that viewing was in October. So just like May, December, I wish I had rewatched this prior to us reviewing it. Because I do think on second watch, I think my rating could either go up or down. I don't think it would land at a 3.5. But yeah, I share the same sentiments as you. But where my problem lies is I think the movie got very repetitive very quickly. And that's not necessarily a knock, because the entire movie got a reaction out of me. Every single scene, you know, made me feel uncomfortable. Like Jonathan Glazer does a very good job at making us as the audience question evil and its existence, because we are watching this family who is seemingly just a normal family. But then you have to understand like who this guy is, where he works, and everything that's going on behind the scenes. But you're basically watching just the same scene over and over again, which is, you know, German family doing normal family things while the horrors of Auschwitz are in the background. And it's not that I was like waiting for something to like actually happen, because obviously something is happening. You could hear it, you're experiencing it, you could fucking feel it. But my problem is just the movie got very repetitive, just very over and over again. It's just scene after scene, family doing family things while Auschwitz was in the background. Like I think this could have worked as a short film, if you ask me. You know, just a short film. You know, a cut of 3 quick scenes. You know, showcasing these families doing different family things while you hear Auschwitz in the background. But that's just a personal thing for me, because like I said, I do agree with every sentiment you basically shared about this movie. It was a very haunting and very unique experience, and it did leave me feeling very uncomfortable, because you're kind of watching this family, and you're kind of like, oh, like they seem like a nice family. But then you're kind of, as the movie goes along, like, these kids are playing in the pool while you're hearing gunshots and furnaces in the background, and it kind of brings you back to reality. You're like, oh shit, like this is not a good family. Like from their perspective, yeah, they're doing what they're being told. They're doing what's right. But from our perspective, this sucks. This is some shitty shit. But yeah, I enjoyed my time with this. It was definitely one of the more unique experiences of everything I had seen at the film festival. One of the most one of the experiences at the festival where everyone kind of collectively was just like kind of, I don't want to say in shock, but more so just like in awe of like the experience that they just had. Like you said, I think Michael Levy's score was just haunting. But again, like you said, it was not in your face. It was very subtle. And I think that works very well with the back, because the haunting stuff that's going on in this movie is in the background. So I think it makes sense that the score is very, reserved. It's kind of like going on in the background just as the horrors are. And then we're going to go through Oscar nominations. It obviously got nominated a lot, and I think deservingly so. But yeah, that's about my rant. I landed at a 3.5. Like I said, I wish I had seen it again before we recorded this episode. Not a lot to really spoil, I would say. But is there anything specific you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's no real like spoilers kind of to go over, but I'll just throw that up there just while I kind of talk about it a little more, just in case anything would be considered a spoiler. But I feel like at this point we haven't really spoiled much other than kind of the premise and how it impacted us. But yeah, I'd say this is one of those movies that obviously if anyone doesn't like it or doesn't hold it as highly as me, like this is probably one of the biggest, like most obvious examples where I'm like, yeah, totally understand. Like I have no issues. Like if you didn't, get as much out of it. And like, I'm not even saying like you at the 3.5, I'm saying like if people watch this and give it like a 1.5 or a 1, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I can see why someone would come to that conclusion. Like when I was walking out of the theater, I was one of the last ones out because I sat through the entire end credits, and there was this group of like 6 elderly people walking out, and they're like, oh, thank God that's over. And me behind them, like, yeah, I can see that. Like, it's like haunting, traumatizing. Like, I'm kind of happy it's over too. And then they're like, then they follow that up by saying, how is that nominated for Best Picture? That movie sucked. And I was like, oh, okay, they're not actually kind of on the same wavelength as I am with my thinking of being happy it's over. But I literally had not like a full-on panic attack, and I mentioned this in my review. It was like in like the Oppenheimer Trinity test scene, you're like holding your breath, you're anticipating, you're waiting for this big explosion to happen. Whereas in this, there's so many moments where I just like was forgetting to breathe, like not even consciously. Like I would just be sitting in my seat and then be like, feel my heartbeat go really fast. I'm like, oh God, I haven't breathed in a while. And I didn't really understand why. Like I couldn't really pinpoint it. It was just, I think it was just the score is unrelenting, and it never leaves you, or not the score, the sound design of just always hearing that you get entranced in this family and just going on their mundane day. And then just in the background, that's always there. And I feel like I was never noticing it, but there's like at least like 3 times this movie where I was just like, okay, breathe. Like, and I was like, this is weird how it's affecting me that way, which is probably why I elevated it so high to a 5. It's just because like at the end of the day, this, not only was this unlike anything I've ever seen, it kind of impacted me in ways that I've never really felt before. And yeah, I mean, it's a film that's going to refuse to spoon feed you. It's similar to all of Jonathan Glazer's works. I've only seen a couple of his other films. I've seen Sexy Beast and Under the Skin, where it's going to be a lot up to your interpretation, and you're going to have to fill in a lot of gaps. It's not going to handhold you, but it's going to give you all kind of the ingredients to work with here. And I loved how it's just like the family's obviously evil the whole time, but it's slowly uncovered just how evil they are throughout, because you start with them just as his day at the lake, swimming. So you're like, I mean, there's a normal family at the end of the day. But then as it goes on, you see like the mother who makes a comment to like their servant who's a Jewish servant, is just like, I can have them burn you and I'd spread you over my garden as fertilizer to regrow it. And just like so out of left field, it just makes such a terrible comment. And then you see the brothers playing in the backyard towards the end, and one of them kind of locks the other one in the greenhouse with like a broom, and it's kind of clear nod to probably like they're probably just like joking like, oh, I'm going to put you in a gas chamber, which is just such an evil thing that they so calmly play with. And one of the brothers collects gold teeth of killed Jewish people. And it's just like the fact that they're just so calmly going about their evil life, and the father obviously as well. And you kind of see that towards the end too, just how like deranged his mind is like, is he, because we'll talk about kind of the final sequence of him kind of walking down the stairs that are slowly getting darker and darker. And he kind of starts retching and like seeming like he's going to throw up. And then it kind of cuts to the more modern day look at the museum of the Holocaust Museum, seeing all the shoes and the suitcases and all these relics that are now a museum that we go and visit, to kind of similar to what Glazer is kind of trying to say throughout this whole film is, why do we go there? We go there to remember the atrocities, but also like, you know, we kind of go there to be like, man, this is like awful, but I don't know if you ever really fully like absorb it. I know a lot of people have gone to like the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam, I believe, and that's really affecting as well. So it's like trying to look at how we look back at history and what we're trying to accomplish when we look back at history, and how people have been viewing history for an entertainment purpose as opposed to fully realizing what the evil is and how it's repeating itself over and over. And we always talk about the Holocaust, like how can we look back at this and avoid it from ever happening again? It's like, I mean, there's similar atrocities. I mean, I don't want to compare atrocities, but we're never in a state where it's not like World War II ended and it was like, all right, every single country in the world is now a perfect utopia and there's nothing bad going on in the world. There's always something going on somewhere, and we pay varying levels and degrees of attention to it. So I just thought it worked really well for me. And it was funny because the whole movie is so experimental and unlike anything you've seen. Like the cinematographer, let's see, I have his name here, Lucas Zoll. So a lot of the scenes in the house, he just had multiple cameras set up throughout the house, so you felt like you're kind of just getting a bird's eye view of this family, and the actors on screen never really knew which recording camera was going to be the final cut. So it's very much just like an observational look, so it's very experimental, and you're not going to get a linear plot or something that's going to spoon feed you. But then when it ended and he started retching on the stairs like he's about to throw up, at first I was like, oh man, did they like just poison him? Because he just talked on the phone with his wife saying like, oh, how he just wishes he could gas everyone in this room. Like he hated all his coworkers as well. And I was like, oh, maybe they poisoned him, he's going to die. And then when he didn't do that, I was like, yeah, I guess I was stupid for even thinking that after this whole movie. Like, why would there be like a normal expected ending of like a cinematic climax of him like dying from poison or something? That's something that would happen in like a normal-ish movie as opposed to this. But yeah, I just think the ending I thought was just the icing on the cake for me. And then you kind of leads you right into the end credits with the score. Just crazy. The river scene, crazy. We didn't even talk about, like, I watched this movie after already seeing the Aggro Drift trailer. So when there was like the local Polish woman that was leaving out apples for people and they kind of filmed her in night vision, I just kind of like did the Leonardo DiCaprio snap at my screen, like, oh, Aggro Drift. But I think it's kind of interesting because I wonder if like Harmony Korine like watched this, because I haven't seen many movies personally that use like night vision and like the kind of effects the way they did in Zone of Interest. I wonder if he's like, man, I really just made a whole movie about like with this, and now this is getting released before mine does. So now mine's not even going to look that groundbreaking. But that was cool too. Like there were just so many elements in here that were so awesome. And yeah, it kind of just all concludes with Rudolph at the end of the movie retching, and you can kind of interpret that like, is he actually retching due to, you know, they live right next to this ash, all the ash coming in the river and the water and the air? Is he just kind of consuming his lungs, or is it more, you know, metaphorical for retching from all the evil that he's been doing, but he's still going to just keep climbing darker down into the steps of darkness? And then one more thing I was going to mention about like the family slowly revealing how evil they are. When the mother comes to visit, she ends up leaving in the middle of the night, and Sandra Hüller's character can't find her. And she's like, what, my mom just left like out of nowhere? And it's kind of like the mom came and she's like supporting what they're doing. And obviously she's part of that environment, but she can't escape the shots. She can't escape the screams, the fire burning at night, and the ash flying in the air as she escapes. She's like, I can't be a part of this. And then Sandra Hüller's like at a loss for words. She's like, how, like, she didn't even realize that would even be an issue. Because to them, they don't even notice anything going on. It's just at this point, it's like, you know, living in the city and hearing ambulances going by. It's just something you don't really pay attention to because it's so second nature. But I'll kind of leave it there for me. 5-star for me, mainly because of how much it affected me. I think it's a film that's, I obviously appreciate it a lot more than like I enjoyed, but I don't really know if anyone would ever watch this movie and like enjoy it. Just not only just due to like experimental nature, but just due to the heavy subject matter. But appreciate a lot of it. If I'm ever going to try and make films one day, I'm definitely going to study a lot of things in this. And the big takeaway for me is just how well they used minimal usage of things, but got maximum impact out of them. And I thought that was very well done. But yeah, I'll leave it there. 5-star for me. Was really close to a 4.5 star, but simply because I just forgot to breathe during the movie, I was like, this should probably be 5-star.
Dude, keep it going. That was the best movie rant I think anyone's ever had on this podcast.
Well,
Jesus
Seth
Christ.
wasn't here today, and I knew he thought very highly of this. So I'm
know.
like, I got a zone of
I don't
interest
even
5-star.
wanna,
Got to
like-
strap on the backpack and get this going.
I don't even want to talk and like taint that review. I want to just end it there because Jesus, you kind of covered everything. That was nuts. I was like, when is he gonna breathe? But you didn't breathe during the movie. You didn't breathe during the review either.
Yeah, I had to get these words out, man. But yeah, like I said, I want everyone to see this movie, and I like I said, there's a lot of people in my theater that I'm not predicting hated it. I know they did based on hearing comments. There's people talking during the movie too, which really pissed me off. They're like, I don't know. It's just like, that's the thing. This is the best picture nominee. A lot of people are going to see it that weren't otherwise going to see it, which is a good thing. But we're going to get a lot of interesting takes coming out because of it. So,
It was
go see it and see what you think.
It was a Q&A with Jonathan Glazer, and I think one of the producers and Sandra Hewler after the movie at the film festival. And there was, I think, 3 people that like screamed out like during the Q&A while Jonathan Glazer was talking, like questions of their own without being called on. And it was all like, I don't know. I forgot what the exact questions were, but they were all basically like, how could you make something like this and like put a smile on your face while you talk about it? Like something like that. Like who gave you the right to make this? All negative comments basically that were just screamed out during these Q&As for this movie, which was fun. I mean, not fun, but it was fun to like be there and watch.
How did he just like ignore the people screaming out?
Yeah, the moderator, he ignored it. The moderator was like, we're not going to take audience questions yet. But yeah, that was it was an interesting experience. But we're gonna wrap it there. Like I said, I don't even want to taint that beautiful rant that you just went on. But yeah, Seth and Tyler both give this a 5-star. I landed on a 3.5 star after one viewing, but I definitely would like to watch it again, and I maybe will before the Oscars.